Hello and welcome to our January 2025 online event. This is Venetia Ramsey from Scrapworx, and we continue with layout number 2 using our About a Girl collection. So for this layout you are going to need the pattern paper called Isn't She Lovely? If you recall in the beginning I asked you need to fussy cut out, there's 2 of them. One of them you need to fussy cut out all the little embellishments that are on here, and then to keep the other side so that we can use that pattern paper. So from the back of Isn't She Lovely, you are going to cut 2 strips to measure 10 by 30.5. all right, my suggestion is that you cut it from the bottom. You give yourself 1 centimeter extra. And then from the pattern paper called Count Your Blessings, you need both of them. So we're working with side B of Count Your Blessings. Okay, and you're going to cut 2 pieces that measure 29 centimeters across and 28 centimeters down. So 29 centimeters across, and 28.5 centimeters down. So you need to do that. Okay. I'm going to give you an overview of the embellishments that you're going to need. So there they are, and I'll run through where they are over here. So in case I miss something, you can then yell it, that one. All right, so we are going to need, out of the laser cut sheets, you're going to push out all the roses. We're going to use all of them. From this laser cut sheet, we just need one of these little labels. That's that one over there. And then from the back of my front cover, you need these 2 little labels and this little sentiment here that says that this right here. So that's that, the roses, and that taken care of. Okay. From the grey board, you're going to need the About a Girl. You should have already colored those if you're following along with me. Then from the other sheet of Isn't She Lovely, I just used this piece over here, which is there, and this little sentiment, this little sentiment over here, which is in my garden of life. You are the most beautiful flower, but you are not restricted to that. You can pick anything on this page that you prefer. To every little girl who father's a hero, you could use that. There's lots of options. These are just what I chose for me. And then from this page, you're going to need this label, okay? And then these 3 tabs over here. All right, so that's what you need. So there you've got a nice overview in case I miss a goodie here and there. Okay. Then you're going to need your 2 light plain cardstock. I've chosen to work with like an off-white. And I've gutted the page because I know that I'm going to be layering one color on the other. So it's very easy. All you need to do is just draw a line. Take your ruler, measure 1.5 or 2 centimeters from the edge. Make a frame, take your ruler and craft knife and cut out the middle. If you're very brave, you can just use your paper trimmer. So there's that. Then you're going to need 2 of the dark cardstock, your gray cardstock, right? And you're going to cut these ones to measure 29.5 centimeters across and 29 centimeters down. And you're going to gut them as well, the same way you do the light one. And they are going to go more or less over there. Just want to make sure, because there's a small little difference, I just want to make sure this is so the 29.5 centimeter one is going to run across. Okay, so we need that little bit of extra. Because I'm moving my my planes to meet in the middle, I just need that little extra 0.5 centimeter that's going to go on the side. 29.5. All right, so that's where that's going to go. I inked around the edges of all my embellishments, my patterns, everything with Distress Oxide Black Soot. I have that here off to the side in case I want to ink a little something again. So then you're going to need your pattern paper, this one that says Count Your Blessings, that you have cut to 29 by 28.5. Right, and when you ink around the edges of this, if you choose to ink, you need to remember not to ink down the middle. Okay, so I have just inked all the way around the edges, but not down the middle. So that goes like that. But I have a nice frame all the way around. And then your two pieces that measure 10 by 30, same thing. I have inked all the way around the edges except down the middle. They're going to go over there like that. So 30.5 across, 10 centimeters down. That's where they are going to lay. All right, and then out of your dark cardstock, you're going to need to cut two pieces that measure 30.5 by 1 centimeter, and I'm going to use them as a border that goes across the top here and over there. Remember, there is a cutting list you can download, so you can pre-cut everything before you even start to assemble. And then you're going to cut another two pieces, 30.5 by 1.5. I cut mine a little bit too short, but it doesn't matter. I'm just going to line them up to the sides there, and I know my photographs are going to cover this here. You will need 4 photographs, 2 a landscape and 2 portrait that measure 10 by 15. All right, so the portrait one's 10 centimeters by 15 centimeters across, landscape 15 by 10. You're going to cut out, like I said, I used the inside of so what was left over of what I gutted here to measure 10.5 by 15.5. You need 4 of them, and 4 out of your dark gray to measure 11 by 16. So we have 2 of them that are going, the 2 landscape ones are going to go in over there like that, and I'm going to have this one pop down like that. And I thought to put this another one here, but you can play around if you want to have 2 here and 2 here with your title here. That's entirely up to you. You can move it around and make it work for you. Right, I've also chosen not to have it too much in the center. I'm going to have more of my pattern sticking out the top than at the bottom, just a little bit offset from the center. So not everything is just all in the middle. All right, and then it's adding your title. See how nicely that border makes this stand out. Okay, and then we're just going to add our embellishments. I thought to do a little cluster down the bottom here. So, well, let me explain how I started. I started by using these 3 little banners as my, to create my visual triangle of where I actually wanted to put some embellishments. So I did it like that, put one there, and one over here, just so that I now know more or less the direction that I want to go with the embellishing. I wanted to bring a little bit of attention to, because I know what photographs I'm going to be using, I wanted to bring some attention to this photo. And so I'm going to put a little tab in here that says, love this right here. And I'm very much about what happens on one side should happen on the other. And that is why I brought in this little sentiment that says, in my garden of life, you are the most beautiful flower. So you can pick and choose any of those sentiments that are on there. All right. And then the next step, and then I wanted to add in, because there's something here, I wanted something over here. So I brought a little bit more attention to the title by bringing that little embellishment in over there. And then from there it just grew. I added some flowers. I thought that we needed a little bit of flower to go behind this "you are one of a kind." And then I just also wanted something that would make it pop, and that is where this little tab label came in. I thought it would look good if we just ran it underneath it so that it's kind of grounded. So we ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, and I feel a cluster should be like more or less uneven. So that is why I brought in another little flower behind here. So then that gives me a little cluster that's uneven. But then felt like we needed to bring it across a little bit, and that's where I added this in. And even though this then brings the number to an even number, I think because of the size of this, you can get away with it. So the rules are there as a guide as far as I'm concerned, but sometimes it's okay to have an even number of embellishments in your cluster as long as they vary in size. So if I take away the little one and put in another big one, so I've got 3 roses exactly the same size, you can see how this little thing, the cluster, looks a little bit awkward. Well, it does to me. Remember that this has to work for you. What looks and feels comfortable for you. But for me, this label feels the same size as this label. Then this one and this one feel like they are the same size. So we can fix that by shifting this in a little bit to make this little label a bit smaller. We shift the roses down a little bit. We take away the big one. You add in the smaller one. So now we have a different scale, and then you can bring in this little label over here with the image. And even though 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's 6 little pieces, because I think of the way that it's clustered, and by changing the scale, you can get away with it. You could count her as number 7 if you wanted to, but I think that then helps with the balance of everything. Right, so you know what happens in this corner needs to happen in the diagonal. So we're going to go and add another little cluster over here. All right, and I want to repeat this cluster at the top here. So I'm going to put in the 2 bigger roses with a small one. Right, and then that goes over there, and then it just felt like it needed something to carry it. Okay, so in this case 1, 2, 3, 4, I needed that 5th little something to ground my sentiment and to make it feel like my cluster flows a little bit better. So there we go, like that. All right, and I just cut off the end because it was, when I was fiddling around with it, it kept sticking out the one end. So you don't have to do that, but it just, for me, looked a little bit better. There we go. So there we've got those 2 clusters, my main one here and there. So now we need to draw up to my visual triangle. Remember, I put that in place first. So I feel like this one here, we're just going to carry on with adding some flowers here. It doesn't need anything more, I don't think. You can play around with where they need to go, the different options. Maybe it looks better like that, and we can have one go behind the tab and one go over the tab. And I always say, once we start to put things together, that's where a page takes on a new life. All right, and then over here, I wanted to bring in another flower, but obviously had run out of little flowers. So, but then that's why I have this extra tag, and it works perfectly because we can pop that in over here like that. I can bring the tab down a little bit. Can play around so that this will overlap my photograph. So I'll attach my photo over this. I will most likely cut that off so that I can use it somewhere else. But there you go. So then that gives me the little flower that picks up with my opposite. So I have my diagonals, and then I have my visual triangle as well. And this way creates another visual triangle like that. All right. So I am going to put some music on, speed up the video, put some glue on everything, stick everything in place, and then I'll be back just to run through the placement of the strip across. Okay, I'll see you in a bit. Okay, so a little thing I've learned, instead of trying to work with the two flimsy frames to attach, you know, because logic says we attach the dark onto the light and the pattern onto the dark, but the frames are pretty flimsy because we've gutted them. I have found it easier to actually attach my pattern paper to my dark, and then you've got a nice firm piece of paper that you can then attach to the lighter. So that is what we're going to do. And I'm just going to use some glue around the edges. So I'm going to put my glue all the way around the edge of my pattern paper, like that. Don't go down the middle because, you know, we're used to doing that. And then just a little bit around the frame, but not too close to the frame because you don't want your glue oozing out. So just like that. So I'd say about 1/2 centimeter away from the edge of the frame, just to give that little bit of extra support. I'm just going to move this one out the way. And then we're going to attach the pattern let me just move it. Okay. I'm going to attach it to the flush against the side because this will become my center. Okay, and get this other one out the way, then we can see like this. All right, so this, I haven't inked down the middle, so I'm using that as to know which is my center, but you can see that I haven't quite got it the right amount of spacing. So I'm just going to shift it, and luckily the Tombow glue doesn't dry too quickly, so it gives you a bit of time to manipulate, move, and get things exactly where you think they should be. And I think that's more or less. Remember this, the edge here will have a bit of a bigger border than the top and the bottom. So for me, that looks like it's going to work. I mean, if you didn't want that, you could then just like make this little piece a little bit longer if you wanted to, but I'm quite happy with the way that is with that. And it's going to add to that frame effect. So I'm going to do the same with the other one. Alright, so we'll do this first, a little bit of glue. Remember, don't go down the middle because then we're just going to stick it to your mat. It's very tempting to go down the middle. And then just so that we know that it's going to stick, it's not going to flapper in the wind. Because remember, the white one doesn't have any, it's been gutted, so it doesn't have that support. Okay, like that. Making sure that this is my 29.5 this way. Yep. And then we're going to attach this like that. Oh, yeah. Okay, making sure that I've got it. And before I burnish that, I just want to double check it with this one to make sure we have the, you know, if we put them together, because I'll take this as the bottom of my page. Yes, that looks like it works. All right. Just give it a burnish. Okay, and then we can just go around the edges of the grey just with a little bit of the ink, the black soot. I'm just going to give it a bit of a, just that it'll stand out a little bit more on that white. Okay. You can do it before. I like to do it before and after. I just want that to stand out, just more of a definite border. Okay, So there we go. So now it's going to be much easier to attach using this full piece to attach to the back frame, so that it doesn't, you're not working with two flimsy pieces. So again, we need this one. I'm going to work, so if it goes on my page, it's going to be like that. But to help me, I'm going to work with it facing me, so that I can get my base cardstock lined up on the line, and then I can work to make sure that I get the lines, you know, the same distance from this side and this side. I'm not worried about there because I know that that will be bigger. Okay, so I'm going to add some glue all the way around the edges here. Again, don't get excited and go all the way down the middle. You're just going to stick it to your cutting mat, or the surface that you're working on. Rather just put a little bit of extra around the inside of the bottom frame, like that. Okay, let's stick this one. So again, I'm just going to line it up on my mat so I've got it, the base straight, and then just shift this to where I think it should be, so that I'm just eyeballing it. You can see that this side is a little bit too big. The gap is too wide. I think that then looks more or less right, and as straight as I'm going to get it. Again, I will always say, if you hold something up in front of you and look at it like that, you can see much better what is going on. And we're just going to burnish that in place. Okay, just work it all. There we go. We're going to do the same with the other one. Just around the edge. Oops. Like that. And then along the middle, this frame. There we go. All right, so before I stick, I just want to make sure that my pattern papers are the right, that they match up, because sometimes the one side they cut a little bit longer than the other. That looks good, and I'm going to stick this in place. So using my mat to line up the bottom one so that it's nice and straight, and attach that there. Make sure that it's flush against where the center is going to be. So before I burnish, I just want to make sure that it lines up with my other page, the right side. It looks like it's lining up at the top and at the bottom. So remember, I always put my pages down, match them up at the bottom, because it makes sense when it goes in your page protector, it's going to drop down. It doesn't make sense to line it up at the top. This will, if it is slightly off, this, because it lines up at the bottom, it'll give the illusion that everything is straight. But that looks good. You can burnish that in place. There we go. Right, so now we need to attach the pink strip. And I thought we would attach that about 11 centimeters from the top of the page. Right from the white we'll attach. I'm going to make my mark, put my piece of pattern paper, and decide if that is the right, if that is about the right spacing. So that's going to go there like that. I think that's going to work. It gives you the more at the top than at the bottom. Yeah, I think so. And just to be sure, you can always just add your photograph to be sure that that's going to work. Yeah, the birds in the background. There we go. I think that that's going to work. Remember, we've still got that line going across there, and the 1.5 that's going to take up more of this space here. So that's fine. So I think 11 is a good spot. So we're going to add some glue and attach that in place. And then my suggestion is, because not everybody cuts their paper exactly the same size, because remember each machine is calibrated differently, that cuts, so sometimes off by 1 millimeter or 2 here and there. So I always suggest you actually attach everything to the center, make sure that it lines up in the middle so that you can trim off any excess off the side of your page. Oops, Stolleblom. There we go. Oh, not quite 11. Picked up the wrong dot. 11 and 11. That looks better. And we'll just finish with this side before we carry on with the others. So now we just need to add that border. Need to bring it over to the center. There's a gap. There we go. Right, so we can add the 1.5 by 30.5, that border. So this one, I'm not having it overlap the pink pattern. I'm going to line it up flush against the pink, and I'm lining it up flush against the edge. There is a bit of an overhang with this one that I'm going to need to trim off, and I'll do that a little bit later. So we're just going to line it up there. Okay, and we'll do the same with the top one. You need the 1 centimeter strip, and it is also going to lay flush against the pattern paper. There, because I have inked here, so I can, I don't want it to look like it's flowing. I want to create the definite strips. And attach that one flush against the top of the pattern paper. There we go. We'll give that a bit of a burnish. Make sure we've got it all stuck. Nothing's going to lift. Alright, so we're going to do the same thing on the other side. 11 centimeters from the top. Make it so that I can see it this time. And add your pattern paper. Okay, I want to make sure that it lines up in the middle. And before I burnish it in place, I'm going to bring the other sheet back, line it up at the bottom, and I can see that I need to take this one up just a little bit. It obviously shifted. And there we go. Perfect. Okay, so now I know that they definitely line up properly. And we can add the 2 little borders. The 1.5 centimeter one is down the bottom. Flush against the pattern paper. Remember, I cut mine a little bit short, so I'm working from the side, so that it's flush against the end. Yours will be cut should be cut the 30.5, so you can work from the center. So like this one, I'll line it up against the middle of the page and move it out. There we go. Making sure that it's flush against that pattern. We're going to give it all a good burnish. Make sure it touches. I think I was going to have it only make it to there, and as the layout evolved, changed my mind. So there we go. Can add our photographs. I'm going to pop those in there, that one over there. And I've lost one. Oh, there it is. Over there like that. So these ones I think we'll do 7 from the bottom, and these ones we'll do, let's do them 4. Okay, so we'll attach the portrait ones, the landscape ones first, 4 centimeters from the bottom of your page. Okay, we'll get that in place first. So about 1 to 2 mils away from the edge, from the middle, and 4 centimeters from the bottom of the page. And we shall do the same with this one. So we just want about a 1 to 2 mil gap between here. I'm working, I think, with about a 1 mil gap. There we go. And slightly away from the middle of the page. And then I'm just going to give them a bit of a burnish. Then we said 7 from the bottom. Let's see, what does 7 look like? 6.5 maybe. Yeah, let's do 6.5 from the bottom. That gives me, if I do it 6.5 from the bottom, it just gives me a nice area to be able to add that cluster here and be able to create that layer over here. There you go. And I try and keep the distance that I've got here and here all the same between my photos. I try not to put too big a gap, change the gap. So if I wanted a big gap, I should have put all of them further away from each other. But I think it flows really well if you keep the gaps between your photos the same as well. I think that it just gives a more cohesive feel and tells the story a little bit better. 6.5. But again, that is how I feel about it. You have to do what you feel comfortable with and what you feel looks good to you. The rules are there as a guide. The instructions are there as a guide. You need to make it your own, and you need to add that little thing that makes it work for you. Alright, I think I've got it a little bit too low. Yes. Keep missing I make a little mark and then I just pick up some other little mark in the pattern and then use that as my guide. Alright. right, so I'm just going to wipe off that extra glue. Should be fine. There we go, that looks better. And then just give that a good burnish. And there we go. So what I'm going to do now is just put on some music. I'm going to put some lines around everything and add my embellishments. The About a Girl is going to go in here. And again, you're going to just kind of eyeball it so that it's kind of centered in over here like that. Okay. You can even bring it down a little bit. But you play around and see where it looks good for you to have that in place. I kind of like it there. Just going to open and make sure it's stuck. There we go. All right. So I will see you in a bit. And there you go, that is everything in place. I have drawn gel lines around the frame, a black line, and then did some stitching on the borders just to make that pop, and then also went around my little sentiment over here because I didn't really want to mat it. I didn't want to bring in more grey, so that works for me, worked out really well. Okay, so you can see nice and balanced, everything in place. I did only put glue on the bottoms of it in case I want to go in and add some foam squares behind here, but for now I don't actually think I need to do that. But that is an option for you if you just wanted a little bit more dimension in your page. You could just pop a foam square behind you if you haven't stuck it down. Right, so there we go. I hope that you've enjoyed the process, and I look forward to seeing you in the layout number 3. Thank you for watching.